The story begins with our hero Takumi. He is summoned to another world. He meets a goddess named Nalam, but she apologizes to him because he was summoned by accident. She explains that the summoning spell selects a number of heroes from a list, but Takumi was not supposed to be chosen. But if you want to be the chosen one, do not forget to leave a like and subscribe to the channel to support us. That said, let's continue the video. She mentions that this spell is far too dangerous since it can destroy the entire world. Because of that, it is forbidden to be used. But the Sidonia Empire used the spell anyway. Nalam mentions that she tried to stop them, but did not have much success. And that is why Takumi ended up being summoned. Takumi wonders where the other heroes are. So Nalam says that they were all sent to the Empire, where the spell was cast. He realizes that being summoned was nothing more than a mistake and asks to return to his world. However, she says she will not do that, since she became so angry when the Empire used the spell, that she immediately corrected it so it could never be used again. She mentions that even if there were a way for him to return, he no longer has a body. Takumi wonders what will happen to him now, and Nalam tells him that he must begin a new life in this world. He asks if he will also be sent to Sidonia, but she mentions that the Empire is troublesome, and since he is not one of the chosen ones, they would not treat him well at all. With very few options, Nalam feels extremely sorry about the situation, so she comes up with the idea of sending him to another nation with her full support. As an apology for everything, he will also receive her blessing, which is the least she can do. However, Takumi becomes afraid of having to deal with monsters, so Nalam assures him that he will have all the necessary support. Nalam tells him to check his status, and he is surprised to see that he is now 17 years old, since in his previous world, he was an overworked salaried worker in his 40s. He had no wife, no children, nothing at all. He only lived to work, and the difference between him and me is his age. Suddenly, he hears someone calling for help, and Molly comes running toward him, with a giant horned rabbit chasing after her. The rabbit jumps at him, and he is forced to defend himself, and by sheer luck manages to kill it with his spear. He wonders if it was thanks to Nalam's blessings, but we find out that it was just a coincidence. He receives a notification that his job has changed to warrior and that he has reached level 1. But he is not very happy about it, since he wants a peaceful life. Molly thanks him for saving her, and he notices that she is from Board Village, so he asks if he can accompany her back to her village. She happily accepts the offer, and before they leave, Molly asks if he will take the rabbit with him, since they are delicious. So he stores the rabbit in his magical item chest. Meanwhile, the other heroes arrive at the Sidonia Empire, where they are welcomed by the first Empress Elizabeth. She mentions that they were summoned to use their powers as heroes to save the world, but they are not sure what she means by that, so she says she will explain everything later. One of the heroines, named Akane, receives her unique ability of revelation, through which she gained Nalam's blessing. She is informed that if she follows her instincts, she will reach the correct path. But her instincts tell her that Elizabeth cannot be trusted. In another scene, we see Takumi, who has arrived at the village, where he meets Molly's parents, Banga and Martha. They thank him for saving their daughter, and he takes the opportunity to ask if he can stay in the village, and they say yes, welcoming him gladly. The blacksmith, named Bobbin, tells him that the village is rich in minerals, which makes Takumi very excited. They welcome him into the village, but unfortunately there is no inn where he can stay. So he decides to build a new house for himself. He tries to be useful and uses earth magic to level the ground, which impresses everyone, but it consumes a lot of his mana. After the house is finally completed, Takumi furnishes it using his blacksmithing and carpentry skills. He decides to change his job to blacksmith and begins working with the ore he mined together with Bobbin. Using his alchemy skills, he converts iron ore into ingots and becomes excited about all the things he can create. But he becomes so focused on his work that he runs out of mana and collapses. After that, Martha teaches him how to take care of himself, and Banga gives him a healing potion. Thus, he continues working on his alchemy, while Martha and Molly keep a close eye on him. He extracts different metals from the ore and uses them to make utensils and tools for his house, which also improves his level as an alchemist. And the guy is already at level 32. He also uses his magic to help Bobbin with his work, and his blacksmith level is already 40, but he says that he wants to be an alchemist. He wants to be like Edward from Fullmetal, and Takumi asks Banga if he can lend him some potions, but Banga thinks they are all basic ones. Takumi mentions that he needs them to try making potions using the herbs, so Banga offers to buy them once they are finished. He begins working and mixes some herbs with water, but his potion has a very different color from the sample he received from Banga. He ends up sensing a flow of mana inside it. so he wonders if that happened because he used water magic to prepare it. He wants to test it, but he knows that could be dangerous, so he decides to gain some resistance and increase his light magic level by eating wild herbs. He reaches his limit and almost dies after eating a dangerous herb, but he uses his healing magic to save himself. He ends up acquiring a purification spell, and then, suddenly, a massive armored boar appears behind him. He is then forced to defend himself as the boar charges straight at him. The boar rushes toward him, and he throws a knife to try to distract it, but it does not work. Not even a direct spear strike injures the beast. Then he uses wind and earth attacks, but those attacks also deal no damage. The creature is extremely tough. He thinks there must be a way to defeat it, and that is when he notices a poisonous spider behind the bushes. He thinks it also wants to attack him, but he realizes that it is already injured. Instead, the spider jumps onto the boar, but not even its poison has any effect, which makes Takumi very worried. Suddenly, he activates his intuition skill and realizes that he has only one option. As the boar is about to attack him, he jumps and uses his alchemy skill to attack, but the collision still sends him flying. He gets back up and uses his healing magic to heal the spider since it tried to help him. That is when he realizes that he has successfully tamed the spider, and he decides to name her Keed, since she has a pattern on her back that resembles a keed leaf, which apparently is some kind of specific leaf from that world. Keed recovers her lost leg, and he returns to the village with the boar, which impresses everyone. But when they notice the spider on his shoulder, they are shocked that he managed to tame such a dangerous insect, and that a young alchemist is already turning into a beast tamer. Takumi invites everyone to eat the boar, and after a delicious meal, Banga gives him the hide, the frame, and the other items that he can sell in the neighboring city. Meanwhile, we see Nolam feeling happy as she watches him grow, but her assistant asks what her plan is, since she gave him a special body and blessings, and most importantly, she sent him 1 year into the past, before the Sidonia Empire activated the spell. But Nolam realizes that there is no specific reason. She thinks she simply liked the boy and wanted to send him to a nice land. Anyway, when Takumi wakes up the next morning, he finds himself wrapped up and stuck in a web and asks Keed to apologize. But she mentions that she feels lonely, since he is always busy working, so he decides to take a short break to play with her. But they are interrupted by Martha, who is shocked to see them like that. He quickly tells her that Keed was not trying to eat him, but she is more interested in the spider silk. We learn that they use the silk to make clothes, but since spider silk is rare, only nobles can afford it. Martha asks Keed to produce more silk, with greater elasticity. She tries to communicate with Keed, and Takumi thinks it will not work, but Keed ends up fulfilling the request. Takumi reminds Keed of their promise to play together, but she refuses, saying that she is busy, so he decides to go finish his work. A month has already passed since he arrived at the village, but he feels that he needs to leave to study alchemy, so he wonders how he will tell everyone, since everyone has been very kind to him. Bobbin prepares a fine suit of armor for him and offers to repair his shoes, which will be useful for kicking things. But Takumi tells him that he is just a producer, and Banga also appears, and Bobbin comments that it will be lonely without Takumi around. But they know that he needs to move to a larger city, where he will have more opportunities. Banga says that a merchant named Papek will arrive at the village soon, and Bobbin comments that they have already prepared everything so that Takumi can travel with him. So Takumi thanks them for all the hospitality, and shortly after that, Takumi meets Martha, who is carrying the parts of the horned rabbit, and she comments that despite the good taste, they need to throw it away, since they do not have proper facilities to process that type of meat. Then Takumi offers to use his purification magic, and Martha is shocked when she discovers that he can use light magic. She asks him to keep this a secret, because only a few people can use this type of magic, and those who have strong abilities with such magic can earn a fortune. In the following days, Takumi begins using his powers for the development and security of the village, because he wants to repay everything the people did for him. Sometime later, Papek finally arrives at the village to sell his goods, but he is shocked when he sees how much the village has developed. Banga introduces Takumi to him, and before leaving, Takumi gives Banga a healing potion, saying that he left more than 100 of them at his house. Martha and the others also appear to say goodbye and hand Takumi a piece of clothing that everyone made together using maple silk. Takumi says that he will treasure it greatly and will always value that gift. The merchant notices that Takumi has a good relationship with the villager, and one of his guards, named Hit, finds the whole situation touching and starts crying. But his friend says that he is acting like an overly emotional old man. Papek then introduces the two as members of a rank C adventure party called Lion Fangs. Takumi understands that they are his bodyguards, but Hit does not care about that, and comments that the area is usually very peaceful and has almost no monsters, to the point of being boring. They ask Takumi what he is carrying, and he replies that he has a pet spider. This shocks the entire group, who try to see this pet spider. But Keed surprisingly takes a liking to the third party member named Bogger, which makes the others jealous. While they argue, Papik asks Takumi if he has some more potions, as they are interested in buying them, but then Takumi asks them to stop the carriage, because a group of goblins is blocking the road. The members of Lion Fangs get excited. After all, this is what guards are for. Takumi, on the other hand, is completely shocked, since this is the first time he has ever seen goblin. Papik tries to calm him down, saying that this is normal for traveling merchants, but he finds it amusing, since Takumi is the one panicking. The group quickly defeats the goblins, and Real notes that it took longer than he expected. They continue their journey, and days later they finally arrive at the city of Bolton, located in the kingdom of Barkula. Takumi finds the city very different from the village and goes to the Adventurers Guild with the members of Lion Fangs. They need his help, since they must report the completion of the mission. He tells the receptionist that he wants to register with the Alchemists Guild, but is informed that no such guild exists. The receptionist whispers to him, saying that most people register with the Adventurers Guild to use the guild card as identification, and that no one really minds. As long as a person completes at least one job per month, everything is fine. Thus, he registers as an adventurer, and Keed as his pet. However, the receptionist is very impressed when she sees that he has such a dangerous pet. Takumi visits Papik's headquarters to sell his potion. Papik offers to buy everything he has, which makes Takumi very happy, since it amounts to around 7 million yen. He thinks that is a lot of money, but Papik apologizes for not paying the full price, since Takumi is still new and has not yet fully built his reputation. Takumi thinks it sounds too good to be true and begins to wonder if Papik has ulterior motives. But he soon thinks that Papik does not seem like the kind of person who would deceive someone. Papik tells Takumi that he should stay in a house that has a separate workshop, and takes him to one of the company's houses. It can be rented for a reasonable price, and Takumi takes a look at the place, and is very surprised to find that it is a mansion. This makes him wonder if the place is haunted, since it is very affordable for the price. But Papik's assistant, Thomas, says that it is not haunted, and that Takumi can move in tomorrow if he wants. After all arrangements are made, as he walks through the city, Takumi notices a horrible smell. Thomas reveals that nobles use magical purification devices to treat the sewage, but those devices come from dungeons and ancient ruins. Because of that, commoners have no way to afford them, and the city ends up suffering the consequences, remaining smelly all day long. Takumi wonders if they even manage to purify the sewage at all, and Thomas explains that priests are hired periodically, but most of the time they simply endure the smell. The following day, Takumi and Keed move into the new house, and he immediately begins working on creating a bathroom. He uses all the raw materials he received from Papik's company. Using his magic, he successfully manages to create an item, which causes his light magic and alchemy levels to increase. But this ends up consuming all of his mana, so he is forced to recover his strength by drinking potions. He is quite satisfied with the result, but suddenly he hears a scream, and shockingly discovers that Papik has been caught by Keed's legs. Surprisingly, however, Papik is not angry, since he actually finds it quite comforting. Even so, Takumi apologizes. The merchant says that it is not a problem and asks to use the bathroom. He ends up being very impressed when he sees the toilet, and then Takumi explains to him how it works, since he does not even know what it is. He mentions that the toilet can also purify any waste, so Papik asks Takumi if he can use light magic. Takumi remembers Martha's warning, so he begs Papik not to tell anyone about this. Papik agrees on the condition that Takumi make 100 more bathroom. Takumi accepts, but soon realizes that it is a lot of work, so he starts thinking about hiring someone. But Papik suggests that he make a contract with a slave, since through magic the slave would be forced to keep the secret. In addition, he could also use the slave for protection and house management. Papik also says that Takumi's aptitude for light magic means that he was chosen by God or by the Church of Divine Light, which leads the sacred empire of Sidonia. But the problem is that the church chooses anyone with aptitude for light magic and exploits them, using this power mainly for healing magic. He believes that Takumi's project will draw the attention of the church, which makes Takumi wonder whether they should really go through with it. But he comments that he has a plan, and for that plan to work they need to keep his identity a secret. Takumi mentions that he is not in favor of using slaves, so he decides to do all the work himself. But they end up being interrupted when Takumi's guild card begins to glow. He receives a message saying that he needs to complete a mission within 1 month after joining the guild, and at that point he realizes that he will need help. They then go to the Mulan company, which is famous for the slave trade in the city. When Papik enters, he asks Takumi to wait in the garden. There he meets a young elf named Sophia, who tells him to go home, because that is no place for a child. After that, Takumi meets the owner of the company, named Mulan, and Papik tells her about Takumi's reluctance to make a slavery contract. But Mulan explains that in her kingdom slaves have rights. According to the rules, the owner must honor the basic rights of slaves and take care of their basic needs. Both parties are forbidden from harming each other, and the owner cannot force the slave to perform actions that are not written in the contract, while the slave must also protect the secrets of their master, which ends up surprising Takumi, and Milan explains that there are differences between types of slaves, and that being a slave in this world is almost like a formal employment contract. Continuing, there are those who cannot pay their debts and become slaves until they can buy back their freedom, and criminals who accept a contract in order to be rehabilitated, or even prisoners of war who accept a contract in order to gain a place to live. There are also contracts for those who were attacked by bandits, but Papik observes that a prisoner of war would be the most suitable, since they cannot be freed without their master's permission, which makes him wonder what kind of trouble Takumi might face. Milan asks for Takumi's opinion, and he tells her that he has abilities he wishes to keep secret, and he observes that, as part of the Adventurers Guild, he may visit dangerous places or search for rare items. So he needs someone who can fight and accompany him on these expeditions. But she points out that managing a mansion and protecting him as a bodyguard are two different roles, therefore he would need 2 slaves. She introduces them to an orphan girl named Maria, who was kidnapped by bandits when she was still just a child, and they trained her in general household tasks. Takumi tells her about his mansion, and when she says that she can take care of all the work, this surprises him, since he did not imagine that such a beautiful girl would not be under anyone's contract. She becomes nervous and says that she cannot sleep with him, which frightens him, since that was not what he was looking for. She asks if he would not mind if she only took care of the household chores, and he confirms, and she thanks him for choosing her. Milan observes that they do not have any war slaves at the moment. Maria remembers Sofia, but Milan tells Maria not to interfere, and orders her to return to her room and pack her belongings. Takumi asks about Sofia, and Milan mentions that she has some problems, but even so, he still wants to meet her. He wonders if it is because of his intuition skill, but he cannot let it go and decides to follow his instinct. Milan introduces them to Sofia, who was captured 50 years ago during the war between the kingdoms of Triaria and Yuji-Ho. But since then, she has not entered into a contract with anyone else up to this moment. She tells him that Sofia has injuries on her body, and because of that she cannot fight, and it is also not good for her to use magic, since her magic was sealed some time ago. Takumi asks to speak with her alone, so Milan leaves, telling Sofia to take care of him. He introduces himself to her, and she tells him that she will not be useful to him, but suddenly he grabs her head and looks at her status. He is shocked to see that she is a very skilled warrior, and thinks that if he can heal her injuries and remove her curse, she will be a great asset. When Milan returns, he tells her that he wants to make a contract, which makes her happy, but Sofia is still quite hesitant about it. Soon after, they fill out the paperwork and Milan establishes the magical contracts between them. Maria and Sofia thank their new master, but Takumi thinks that he should be the one thanking them. Sofia then asks him to stop being so polite with them, but Milan thinks that he will be a good master. Takumi takes the 2 girls to his house, but they are shocked when they see Keed. He says that they will all live together and will have separate rooms, but Sofia thinks that this is far too luxurious for them. Then he says that this is not a problem, since they have many rooms, and the house also has a good bathroom, which they can use whenever they want. The girls enjoy the good bath, and Maria mentions that she never thought Milan would let Sofia go, since she never sold her to a client, no matter how much money they offered her. Sofia gets lost in her thoughts, and when Maria questions her about it, she observes that in the contracts most of the information about Takumi was left blank, including his place of birth and lineage, so she begins to wonder if he is hiding something. Takumi then prepares dinner for them, which leaves Maria quite embarrassed, since cooking is part of her job. But he assures her that it is fine, saying that she can help him with the cleaning. He asks them to join him at the dinner table because he wants to do everything together, and he also asks them to call him by his name instead of master. Soon after, Takumi meets Papik at his company, who hands him the things he had requested. On the way home, Takumi finds a church where he is surprised to see a statue of Nolam. He thanks her for her blessings, but this makes him think about why she was speaking badly about Sidonia when she summoned him for the first time. Suddenly, he is transported to her, and Nolam observes that he is not part of the Divine Church or the Empire. He wonders how he ended up there. Then she reveals that his prayers reached her, and she quickly summoned him. She explains that there are 2 religions in the world, the Church of Creation and the Church of Divine Light. The Church of Creation has always worshipped her since the beginning, but the Church of Divine Light was created recently, along with a god that in fact does not exist. After its foundation, the Sacred Empire of Sidonia used force to rapidly spread the influence of the Church and oppose the Church of Creation, but she could not interfere in the petty affairs of humans. Thus, Sidonia managed to activate its summoning spell. She observes that her blessings will last forever, but the part of the blessings that helped him meet people and grow will be undone. done, since his tutorial is almost at an end. From then on, he will begin to encounter people with more malicious intentions. Meanwhile, in the sacred empire of Sidonia, an emperor asks about the 3 heroes who were summoned. He is informed that they are being trained, and although they were somewhat hesitant at first, the empress managed to convince them to help the empire. We see 2 of the heroes, Akira and Yamato, training together. Their instructor encourages the 2 to give their best. But when they ask Akane to do the same, she refuses, since she does not want to be trained and does not like violence. But Elizabeth appears and says that it is not about violence, but about the strength that is necessary to save their world. Akira tells Akane that she does not need to worry, because he will always be nearby to protect her. This impresses Elizabeth, but Akane still thinks she is dangerous, and does not trust Elizabeth even a little. Takumi returns home, but ends up slipping and falling, and Sophia tries to help him pick up his thing. But he uses his own magic to send the package straight to his item chest, which makes her quite suspicious. He tells the 2 of them that he has important work at the workshop and that they can have dinner without him. But Sophia decides to follow him and ends up finding him cutting his own arm with a knife, and then using magic to heal the wound. He says that as crazy as it may seem, he needs to do this to train his abilities. He also comments that what Maria did was cruel. Just hearing her name already makes Sophia worried. She runs to confront him, but she ends up losing all her strength and collapses onto him. Takumi decides to treat her hand, and even though her body resists magic, he manages to heal her, which also increases his level of light magic. He takes her back to the room and uses his powers to remove her curse and heals her completely. When Sophia wakes up the next day, she tries to warn Maria about Takumi, but Maria says that he healed Sophia and shows the mirror as proof. Sophia goes to meet Takumi and thanks him for healing her and removing her curse. Now she can use her own magic, and that is when Takumi reveals that he needs to increase his level of light magic. So he ended up using a very strong poison on the wound and kept healing it repeatedly. But Sophia starts wondering why he called Maria cruel, and he explains that she accidentally threw away his herbs. She becomes emotional and finally accepts Takumi as her master, swearing loyalty to him forever, and Nolam is happy with this outcome. Soon after, Takumi goes to a library and is surprised to see that there are only 4 books about alchemy. He wonders if it is because people do not have much interest in it, and realizes that the books are written in the language of an ancient civilization, and if he were in the world of Fullmetal Alchemist, it would be much easier for him. But well, these books that are written in a strange language are easier for him to understand, since he knows all the languages in the world thanks to Nolan's blessings. The guy is basically the Reinhardt of ReZero. Anything he needs, the goddess goes there and gives him a blessing. When he returns home, Maria mentions that she cannot forget the moment that happened between him and Sophia, which makes him realize that she was watching him. After that, everyone continues making bathrooms, and Maria is impressed by the number of toilets they have already made. Takumi observes that fulfilling the request will not be a problem, saying that he can finally take a break. Maria asks if he is planning to do other things, and he says that he wants to take a trip, since even though he is happy with how things are going, he still wants to explore new things. He comments that he will take Sophia to protect him, and will also take Keed with them, since she is his pet. But he tells Maria to stay behind and protect their house, and she wonders if he would consider her a burden if she asks to go along. But he says that it will be dangerous, and she starts crying, saying that she cannot take care of the house alone. So he thinks about how he would be extremely worried about her if he left her behind taking care of the house alone. He takes a look at her statistics, and is surprised that they are not that bad. Then he asks if she is sure that she wants to go with them. Sophia also thinks that Maria should join them, saying that since she is skilled in both combat and magic, she can teach Maria a few things. Takumi asks what weapons they will need for the trip. That is when Sophia makes a list with requirements, while Maria asks for just a short sword. But Sophia observes that if she uses only the short sword, her attacks will not be strong enough to fight monsters. So she tells Maria to take a spear and starts teaching her how to use it. After that, Takumi starts preparing the weapons, which makes him level up. He thinks about making armor for Maria and for Sophia, but thinks that taking their measurements will be a bit complicated. So he summons dolls that he made modeled after them and starts designing the armor. After a few days, he delivers the armor to Maria and Sophia, and cannot believe how good the armor looks on them. But Sophia is confused by the fact that he made such perfect armor without even measuring them. He quickly changes the subject, asking what they thought of the weapons, and is happy to see that they liked them. He also gives them rings imbued with mana, which will help when casting spells. Sophia thinks this is too much, since he must have used a lot of mana, but he says that she can see it as part of his training. He also reveals that thanks to this, He also learned ice lightning magic. After that, they go to the Adventurers Guild, so that Sophia and Maria can register for the trip. Hans, who is the receptionist, reminds Takumi that he needs to complete some missions, so he thinks that they should do some easier missions. But Sophia points out that he will not gain any points that way, but he tells her not to worry about that, because he does not want to rank up in the guild. At that moment, another group appears, and they start harassing Sophia and Maria, saying that they should go with them. But Takumi defends the two of them, even though he is scared. One of the guys tries to hit him, but he strengthens his body using magic, and ends up breaking the guy's hand. The guild master ends up appearing, but thinks that Takumi is the one causing trouble. However, Hans explains what happened. He asks Takumi what exactly he did, and seeing that he is quite hesitant, he says that all of his personal information will be kept confidential. Hans comments that he senses traces of mana, which greatly surprises Takumi, because for Hans to be able to sense such a faint trace, his sensory magic ability must be very high. Takumi says that he did not use magic. He just took coal out of his item box to coat the upper part of his body, revealing that he synthesized the coal into diamond. Hans thinks that they should promote all of them to rank D. And Barak, who is the guild leader, comments that this will only prevent other people from harassing them, which is something very good, but Takumi reminds him that Sophia and Maria just registered, so Hans asks if they are willing to accept some missions that he chose, in order to help them level up faster. They accept the proposal, as they head out on a mission to eliminate goblins and kobolds. And kobolds are basically some humanoid lizards, all weird looking. Keed speaks telepathically with Takumi, saying that there are 4 goblins hidden in the bushes. Sophia says that she will eliminate 2 of them and cuts the 2 down with ease. While the other 2 rush toward them, Keed uses her webs to knock the creatures down. Then Takumi and Maria go there and finish them off easily. He is quite surprised by the number of goblins and humanoid kobolds that are appearing around there. He ends up commenting that they have already defeated enough to complete the mission 3 times. Then Sophia points out that there is probably a camp nearby and that there might be a general among them. She says that the general is a rank C monster, and normally at least 5 groups of rank D adventurers or higher are needed to defeat a camp that has a general like that. Takumi thinks that it is not a good idea to fight them, but Sophia thinks that if they use all their magic in one very strong attack, they can defeat the camp on their own. Suddenly Keed tells Takumi that she is about to level up. That is when he opens a mobile dimension for her and comments that she will not be able to help in the fight against the goblin camp. Sophia says that there are hundreds of goblins and no humans nearby, so they can end up attacking everything with magic and nothing bad will happen. They use their rings to cast powerful spells and defeat a large number of goblins, but Sophia warns that it is still not over, since the goblin general and the goblin knights have appeared. The general ends up charging at Takumi, but he blocks the attack and uses his fire magic to defeat him. When they return to the guild, Barak yells at Takumi for having done such a risky mission alone. But Keed comes out of the mobile dimension out of nowhere in her new form and knocks Barak backward. And since we are in the Ice Sky arena, obviously Keed would go from a spider into a very cute girl. Maria is very impressed by the fact that Keed can now talk and looks all pretty and cute. But before Hans goes to get the rewards, he says that Takumi was promoted to rank E, while Maria and Sophia are now rank F. At their house, Maria asks Takumi if he has any cloth scraps, and he wonders why she is looking for scraps. Then she mentions that she wants to make some underwear for herself and for Sophia, but he thinks that using scraps will not be enough. So Maria makes a drawing to show how it will be, and Takumi says that it does not look right. Then he draws how he thinks it should be, but he thinks that doing that made her very irritated. But in reality, she asks him to make it that way for her himself. Keed tells Takumi that Papik came to talk to him, but then he finds the merchant unconscious. So Keed explains that he was shocked when he saw her new form. After Papik recovers, he tells Takumi that the Lord of Bolton, named Godwin, wants to meet him, which leaves Takumi quite surprised. He wonders what the reason is, and then Papik mentions that it is about the bathrooms. Takumi remembers what Papik said before and that it would prevent any interference from the Empire, so he knows that he cannot refuse this meeting. When they meet Godwin, he thanks Takumi for having made the bathrooms for them. Takumi tells Godwin that he does not need to bow before him, but Godwin replies that he will bow as much as necessary if that improves his domain. He also thanks Takumi for eliminating the goblin camp and tells him to take care of himself, because it would be a great loss for the kingdom if something happened to him. He warns that Takumi must never lower his guard, especially now that the Empire will come after him. And back at the house, Keed finishes making her fabric, so Takumi works hard for 3 days to make the underwear for Maria and Sophia. They see Takumi completely exhausted and he tells them to try them on, but he ends up getting very embarrassed when he realizes what he just said. Even so, they offer to wear them if that will make him happy, which makes Takumi even more embarrassed and he runs away. After that, he creates some refrigerators and the girls are very impressed by how cool they are, but he says that they are used to store food. He mentions that he will start another project and Sophia asks what he is going to do next. Then he says that he was thinking about improving their equipment. He notes that since his blacksmith level went up, he wants to make a new set of equipment using mithril and adamantite. He visits the guild to see where he can find these ores, but Hans says that mithril and adamantite are very rare. He mentions that it would be possible for Takumi to obtain the ores with his alchemy, but that would require a lot of mana, so it would be faster to extract them directly. Then he talks about a city called Horaz, where there is a mine with mithril and adamantite. He mentions that only members of the Blacksmiths Guild can enter, but he says that there is a loophole. He says that Takumi will be able to enter if he does a mission to defeat monsters in the mine shafts. Takumi thinks that it will be good. After all, he can also fulfill his mission quota at the same time. 2 birds with 1 stone. At that moment, Barak appears, sensing the smell of opportunity. He mentions that they are running out of wood, since most adventurers are hunting black buffaloes at this time of year. He says that these special woods can be found in the Forest of Death, which is on the way to Horaz. Takumi agrees to collect wood, and Barak also mentions that he has a blacksmith friend who needs to be escorted to Horaz. Takumi wonders if he is being exploited, and he notes that he has never done an escort mission before. He asks if the Lion Fangs group should do it, but Barak mentions that they are on another mission, so everything ends up falling to our hero after all. Then Heel suddenly appears, and Barak wonders if he has already finished the mission. But he mentions that they took down a black buffalo, so he was just bringing the body back before it rotted. He notes that more advanced monsters are starting to appear, so he thinks that escort missions are going to become more difficult. But Barak notes that this will also make the rewards better. Heel gets ready to return to his group, but Takumi asks if he needs a place to spend the night, mentioning that he has a bathroom. They make a stop to visit Payback, who offers to lend one of his monster horses, but he asks to buy some of the ores when Takumi comes back, and also asks for some refrigerators. Meanwhile, we see Sophia waiting for Takumi at home, and she notices that he is late. Takumi and Heel return after trying to look for a blacksmith, but Heel suddenly senses danger nearby. Seeing a hooded figure approaching, they realize that they are not prepared to fight, so they run away. But someone knocks him down with a kick, and we see that it is actually Sophia. She thinks that Takumi was in danger, so she prepares to finish off Heel. But Takumi quickly stops her, and the two apologize to him. They return home, and Heel is surprised to see Keed's new form, but the girl says that she hates him. Heel comments that Takumi is lucky to always be surrounded by beautiful girls, while he is always single. But Takumi says that they are not his girlfriends, at least not yet. But we already know where this is going, right? Then Heel tries to flirt with them, but both say that they are loyal to Takumi. And while Heel takes a bath, Takumi tells the others about the trip to Horaz. They then decide to depart after 3 days, and they take Papek's carriage and meet Gambo, the blacksmith who will accompany them. As they set off, we see Hans and Barak receiving a message from the Horaz branch, informing them that the monsters of the Forest of Death are more active than ever, and because of that, they are very worried about Takumi's group. Meanwhile, we see Papek with Godwin's servant, and he mentions that the king was pleased to receive a bathroom as tribute. The Gatatsu problem is being resolved steadily, but they comment on how the news is spreading. This could cause Sidonia to learn about the problem earlier than expected. Takumi and the others arrive at the edge of the Forest of Death, and they leave Gambo behind inside a barrier, while they go to hunt the treants. These treants are enemies shaped like trees, and Sophie explains that they can find them by sensing their mana. She points to one, and then Takumi attacks it. While the girls provide cover for him, he manages to eliminate it. But Sophie realizes that they are surrounded. They use magic to eliminate several at once, but they end up encountering a giant ancient treant. Everyone works together to rip out its roots, but it is able to regenerate instantly. Sophie concludes that they need to eliminate the tree's body with a single attack. Takumi takes his sword and enchants it with his flames. Sophie opens a path for him, and he manages to deliver the final blow. And the tree drops miraculous apple, and Sophie notes that they are extremely rare. So Takumi decides to take all of them back with him. They arrive at the city of Horaz and visit the Adventurers Guild. There, Gambo tells Takumi that he will need to complete a mission to exterminate iron moles in order to enter the mine. After that, they begin extracting the ores they need, and Takumi manages to find adamantite. But suddenly, the entire mine starts shaking, and an iron mole appears. Sophia prepares to fight, but Takumi uses his light magic, which paralyzes it, and then they manage to finish it off easily. Gambo wonders what he did, and then he explains that since the moles live in darkness, They cannot withstand seeing light. Maria feels bad for not having done anything, but she also wonders whether they really wanted to fight. After that, they manage to collect the ores they needed without any further interruptions and are able to return to Bolton. Gambo teaches Takumi how to work with mithril and adamantite, and he manages to make a mithril knife enchanted with fire. After working for an entire week, Takumi makes new equipment for Sophia and Maria, who also comments that he enchanted everything with the elements they use. He also says that he enchanted his own equipment with agility, but when he tries to demonstrate how fast he is, he ends up being too fast and crashes into a wall. The girls test their enchantments, and Sophia tells Takumi that she would sacrifice her life for him. She asks him to make a shield so that she can protect him, but he tells her that she has to value her own life. The goddess Nolam is happy with how everything is going, but then she sees a sword covered in blood and hopes that Takumi will be prepared for the adversities that are to come. At that point, we take a time jump of 1 year into the future of Sidonia, where Akira and Yamato have already been trained. The Emperor is preparing to send them to the kingdom, and Takumi finishes the shield for Sophia, but he is completely exhausted. Sophia starts to think that someone should help him in the workshop, while rumors begin to spread that the kingdom of Barkila is using magical devices to purify sewage. This ends up reaching the Empire, and then the Church of Divine Light sends a messenger, who tells the king that light magic is a gift from the goddess of their church. They want the king to hand over the purification magic circle and the patent as well. But the king laughs and the messenger becomes very irritated. He says that using purification magic on a toilet is absurd, so the king would have to hand over whoever created it to their empire. But the king refuses to accept this, which leaves the messenger very surprised. He even tries to threaten the king, but it is useless. The king stands his ground and will not yield. Papik tells everything to Takumi, and Takumi wonders if that attitude was really the right one. But Papik assures him that everything will turn out fine in the end. Takumi starts thinking about whether this will cause the church to turn against them. So Papik explains that there are 2 religions in his kingdom: the Church of Creation that worships Nolam, and the Church of Divine Light that recognizes Anati. He further explains that unlike the Church of Creation, the priests of the Church of Divine Light charge an absurd fee to cast recovery magic. Takumi thinks that he should avoid getting involved, since the Empire is backing the Church of Divine Light. But Papik mentions that he has a request. He reveals that he offered samples of Takumi's bathroom and refrigerator to His Majesty, and that he liked it so much that he ended up inviting Takumi to meet him. Takumi hesitates a bit at first, but eventually gives in to Papik's request. After that, Takumi tells Sophie and Maria about his upcoming visit to the royal capital, and they both agree to go with him, but he warns that they will only depart after 1 week, and Maria asks how long it will take to get there. He says that it takes 7 days of travel by carriage pulled by monster horses, so she decides to prepare some meals for the trip. He also says that he is thinking about making new cloaks for them, since he received magic stones from Papik. With that, he can enchant these cloaks with a perception blocking spell. Sophia thinks that this will be very useful in combat, and Takumi comments that this will also help him avoid unnecessary tension. At the market, Maria talks to Sophia about her concern regarding the fact that Takumi does not take proper care of his own health, and Sophia ends up agreeing. She comments that he has a lot of talent, but when she starts listing everything he can do, Maria teases her for being in love with Takumi. Sophia gets nervous and says that she only meant that he is a wonderful master, and she makes an excuse and quietly slips away. Later, Takumi goes to visit the Church of Creation, and while he is there praying before Nolam's statue, he is suddenly teleported right in front of her. She thinks that he is there to pray for a safe journey, but Takumi reveals that he has some questions to ask. He asks if there is another goddess named Anati, but Nolam says that she is the only goddess and that he will learn more about her in the future. She also becomes curious about why he wants to know this. That is when Takumi says that the Empire has been approaching him, which makes him think whether all this interference from Sidonia has something to do with the blessings that Nolam gave him. Nolam comments that he was summoned because of Sidonia, but Takumi starts wondering what happened to the other heroes that the Empire summoned, since he never heard anything about them. And then comes the revelation. Nolam admits that she made a mistake and ended up sending him 1 year before the other heroes were summoned. She also says that there are still a few months left before they arrive, and that makes Takumi wonder why she went through the trouble of sending him so far in advance. But Nolam dodges all the questions and only says that their time there is running out. She reminds him to bring sweets the next time they meet and sends him back. He wakes up in the church and realizes that she did not want to answer his question. But since he has no intention of meeting the other heroes, he does not care much about it. 10 months into the future, we see Akira training with his master, who praises his rapid progress, while the other heroes watch in silence. We return to the present, when Takumi finally prepares the new cloaks, and he notes that they look good no matter what they wear. But Maria says that he is exaggerating. After that, Takumi shares his plan to make his own carriage, since it is better to build his own comfortable one for himself, rather than borrowing one every time. He mentions that he still needs to borrow a monster horse from the guild, but Maria tells him about the Forest of Death on the outskirts of the city, which is full of monsters. She thinks that there they can easily find unicorns or dragon horses, which are far superior in terms of strength and speed. They soon head to the forest, and along the way Takumi wonders if dragon horses are similar to dragons, but the girls tell him that they look like ordinary horses. The only difference is their horns, similar to those of a rhinoceros, and of course that they have dragon scales covering their bodies. Keed asks them to hurry up, and Sophia notes that she seems very excited, so Takumi reveals that she must be hoping that they will find someone like her. Their conversation is interrupted because Sophia senses something very dangerous in the forest and prepares to fight. But the monster, which is actually a wolf, ends up passing right by them, since they are using those special cloaks that are designed to conceal presence. Takumi is very happy with his creation, but Sophia surprises him by taking it off, because she wants to fight and become stronger. They soon defeat a wild boar, and Maria is very excited, as they prepare a delicious meal for them. Takumi also sees one of those trees that is dead, and he and Sophia start cutting it down, since it can be useful in building the carriage. While the rest of the group is busy working, Keed feels ignored and goes off on her own. She comes across some dead trees, which shocks her, and hears a noise. When she checks it out, she comes across an injured dragon horse, which fires lightning at her when she tries to approach. This makes her remember her encounter with Takumi, so she introduces herself and tells the dragon horse that Takumi will heal him. Suddenly, she notices two more monsters nearby and captures them using her webs, while the horse helps by firing a lightning attack from its horn. Soon, they are surrounded by hundreds of termite monsters. So Keed builds a strong shell of webs around herself. She tries to contact Takumi, but she cannot. When she is about to lose all hope, Takumi and the others arrive to save her. She starts crying as she hugs him and mentions how she was unable to contact him. So Sophie explains that her thick layer of webs must have blocked the mana communication between them. Takumi mentions that he realized something was wrong when their mana connection was lost, so he followed the trail. Maria notices the unconscious dragon horse, and Keed asks Takumi to heal it, but its protective shield repels his magic, and Sophie observes that the remaining monsters will soon surround them, so they need to hurry. Takumi decides to place the horse inside his mobile magical chest together with Keed, but Sophie thinks this is reckless, because it will overload his body. He says that he will be fine, but suddenly collapses because he used too much mana. He then tries to drink a mana potion, but his body demands mana too quickly, and he loses consciousness, so they take him back home. Sophie observes that since he did not summon Keed, he is consuming all of his mana and will die if they do not remove the horse. She kisses his hand and asks Keed to open the mobile magical chest so that the horse can escape. But Keed fears that the horse will become frightened by the unfamiliar place, so Sophie tells her to prepare a protective shell like before. After that, Maria goes to Papek's company to get medicinal herbs for monsters, while Sophie stays by Takumi's side. The next morning, he wakes up and finds Sophie lying beside him. He acknowledges her efforts to save him and mentions how much he appreciates their help. Everyone visits the garden where Keed is taking care of the horse, and Takumi realizes that they have become good friends. He introduces himself as Keed's friend and begins using his healing magic, which helps the horse recover its true strength. He wonders what name he should give it, and Keed suggests that just like her, he should give it the name of a leaf. So he decides to call her Tsubaki, because the Tsubaki tree keeps its leaves throughout the year, blooming with red and white flowers. Elsewhere, in one of the slave trading companies of the royal capital, we see a man buying a slave, but when he encounters Rieva, he wonders how she will be useful to him. She tells him that she will study hard and prove her usefulness, but he rejects her, saying that he needs someone who can be useful immediately, which leaves her heartbroken. She apologizes to her master, who tries to comfort her, saying that he hopes a good master will appear someday, but she observes that he has been saying that for many years. She remembers how she had to let her family become slaves so that she could have a better life. Meanwhile, Takumi tells Maria and Sophia that they will go to the workshop once again, which makes them quite upset, since they have not been able to rest much in the past few days. Takumi ends up visiting the guild, where he notices someone complaining to Barak about a monster. So he asks Hans about it, and he tells Takumi about recent reports of a dangerous monster in the city. He shows Takumi a sketch based on witness reports, but notes that the monster has not caused any real damage yet. Takumi mentions that he came to register his new pet and opens his magical chest, but everyone panics, as they recognize Keed and Tsubaki as the monsters that had been frightening everyone. Meanwhile, Sophia visits Mulan, asking if she has a slave who can help Takumi with his work, but she says that she cannot help them yet. She says that she will contact other companies and praises Sophia, saying that she has changed since signing a contract with Takumi. Sophia ends up meeting Maria at the market, and the two talk about how, despite wanting to help Takumi, they do not share his burden. Maria mentions how Sophia has started to soften her expressions from time to time, but she still admires her brave side, which embarrasses her. She reminds Maria that they need to hurry, and soon they arrive at the workshop, where they are shocked to see Takumi sleeping. But Gambo explains that he was working so much that he fell asleep, and he warns that if he continues like this, his health will worsen. After that, Takumi finishes the carriage and presents it to Sophia and Maria. They are quite surprised by the amount of space inside it, and he reveals that he found it with a spatial expansion and takes them for a ride. On this short little ride they take, Sophia realizes that despite the high speed, she barely feels any impact. They arrive at their destination, where they find the lion prey. They will accompany them on their journey, and soon they join Godian and Pape, who want to see Takumi's carriage from the inside. But upon seeing it, they shout with excitement, because they have never seen such an impressive carriage. They ask Takumi how he made it, and say they are willing to pay a large amount of reward for all this information. But Godian stops him, since he is confusing Takumi. Godian also admires the carriage and says that he would gladly pay several platinum coins for it, which makes Takumi very happy, since that is equivalent to 1 billion yen. Finally, they begin traveling toward the royal capital, and along the way, Godian discusses with his assistant about how Takumi achieved tremendous success in a short period of time. Godian knows that he will soon receive even more fame and recognition, but he also understands that they need to protect him from possible enemies. Several months after the present time, we see Akane in Sidonia, where she is reading a book about the goddess Anati, showing how she created humanity and other creatures. But she soon stops reading when she notices a beast girl with a collar around her neck. She realizes how humans mistreat other living beings, and returning to the present, Takumi's group finally arrives at the capital of the kingdom, and he is happy that he did not face any problems with monsters along the way. But Real notices that whenever any monster appeared, Sophia and the others took care of them instantly. After arriving at the inn, Papak tells Takumi that he must build another carriage for the king, but he also mentions that they have an audience with the king in 5 days, so he suggests that Takumi leave that for when he returns to Bolton. Even so, Takumi believes that he can manage to build the carriage before the meeting. Although he is confident that he will find all the necessary materials there in the capital, he is quite worried about the available space to work. But Papak assures him that he will take care of all of that, which greatly relieves Takumi. The boy is far too hardworking. Takumi tells Sophia and Maria about their plan, and mentions that they will go to the Paloon Company. Sophia recognizes the company as a reliable slave trading house in the capital. It is a company owned by a man named Burton. She tells Takumi not to push himself too hard and suggests that he find someone who can help him with production. But he mentions that he already has helpers, yet she reminds him that they cannot help him with alchemy. Takumi meets Burton and explains that he needs someone who can help him with alchemy. Then Burton says that he needs an assistant with magical aptitude. Maria comments to Sophia that she was unable to find Keed, even after taking a look around the company building. Then Sophia goes after her, but ends up hearing someone scream. She finds Rieva, who is frightened upon seeing Keed, but Sophia realizes that Rieva is not dangerous. She also notices that Rieva has an alchemy book, and she begins talking at length about her passion. After that, Sophia finds Takumi, and he tells her to accompany him, because he is going to meet the candidate. They soon meet Rieva, and Takumi introduces himself to her, but she is quite surprised to see Sophia reading, and Takumi says that he will be happy if she knows about alchemy. She becomes excited to hear that, but restrains herself because she remembers the comments of the previous client. She thinks that she is not good enough, but Sophia observes that she is learning different types of magic on her own. She mentions that Rieva has an alchemy book, and they realize that she and Takumi have similar ideas when it comes to alchemy. He wants to test her knowledge, so he gives her an alchemical magic circle and asks if she knows what it is used for. She answers correctly. He is impressed by her knowledge and invites her to join his group. They establish a contract, and she asks to send her entire salary back to her family, because she wants her brother to have a better life. But Takumi thinks that if he sends her entire salary to her family, she will continue being a slave forever. Sophia believes that it should be an honor for Rieva to work for him, and that she will learn new skills that will allow her to earn a living. Soon, she meets the other members of the group who are excited to see her, and she thinks that she will have a lot of fun with them. Meanwhile, in the Empire of Sidonia, the Emperor is extremely enraged since the Kingdom of Barkular rejected his demands. But Elizabeth's law advises Aaliyah not to fight directly, because soon the kingdom will summon its heroes. so the best thing to do is to spread hatred against the kingdom. On the other hand, we see Takumi showing his alchemy skills to Rieva, which impresses her, but he comments that she will soon be able to create similar alchemy circles. She doubts her own abilities, but he observes that she is genuinely interested in alchemy, which according to him is the most important quality for an alchemist. Takumi finally finishes the carriage, and while he is admiring it, an elderly man asks if it belongs to him. Takumi says that he made the carriage for the king, which impresses the old man, who thinks Takumi is a genius. He then reveals himself as the king, which frightens Takumi, but he explains that it is just an informal meeting. The attendants ask why he changed the meeting location. Then he explains that he wanted to personally thank Takumi for solving the sewage problem. He mentions that they would normally hold a luxurious party in his honor, but that would draw unwanted attention, and Takumi understands. He thanks Barkula for defending him against the Empire, but says that he considers it part of his duty as king, which is to protect his people. Takumi's group leaves the palace after receiving rewards from Barkula, who orders his men to keep the meeting a secret. After returning to Bolton, Takumi buys the mansion he had been renting, but Maria and Sophia refuse to accept a salary, which surprises Rieva. They think that he is already providing everything they need, but he mentions that they should save money for when their contract with him ends. Sophia observes that she will probably live longer than him, since she is an elf. Therefore, she will spend the rest of her life protecting his grave, and Maria wishes to be buried beside him. Meanwhile, in Sidonia, a soldier presents Takumi's sewage cleaning device to Elizabeth. She believes that her enemies do not fear the wrath of the goddess Nadian, and she knows that they will not tolerate those who threaten the dignity of her church. Therefore, they must eliminate the threat as quickly as possible. And Rieva tells Takumi that she wants to register as an adventurer, so that she can increase her mana and help him with alchemy. He takes her to the guild, where she soon receives her adventurer card and thanks Hans for helping her send money back home. He asks Takumi if he has already thought of a name for his group, and why everyone, except Rieva, has rank D classification, but Takumi is not very interested in becoming a full-time adventurer, and he mentions that, unlike the Lion Fang, which has its roles clearly defined, he does not have a front line. He realizes that he cannot fight, but Barakio interrupts, saying that an adventurer's body is his greatest asset, so he offers to train him. Barakio drags him outside, where he throws him around like a toy, asking if he has already thought of a name for his group. But he is far too distracted to think properly, so Barakio continues throwing him from side to side. After that, Takumi asks Maria and Sophia to help him decide on the group's name, or his body will not survive Barakio's punishment. They suggest some names, but he considers them inappropriate, and Maria thinks it is pointless, while Sophia wants to fight Barakio. But Takumi calms her down, saying that he is just training him. 10 months in the future, we see Yamato training in the Empire, but Akira considers his fighting style reckless, thinking it will not work in a real fight. A-King questions Akira's fighting style, but he knows that he is a hero, so she reminds him that she and Yamato are also heroes, and he invites her out, but she rejects the invitation, so he mentions that she has not changed at all. After that, A-King continues her research on the subject, and she discovers that, unlike the Church of Divine Light, which preaches human supremacy, the Church of Creation teaches that all races are children of Nalam. She remembers being told that they were summoned for the sake of world peace, but she cannot understand what everyone truly expects from them. Returning to the present, Takumi is giving Rieva a magical ring and a staff as a gift. He observes that the ring is used to activate spells, and the staff will be useful in her adventure. The spider becomes jealous of Rieva, but Takumi gives her a weapon that does not interfere when she uses her threads. After a few days, Takumi resumes training with Baraki, who asks him for the group's name, but he does not like the suggestions, so Baraki punishes him. Takumi fears that Sophia will get angry, but Sophia notices that Takumi's defense is weak, so she begins giving him some advice. After the training, Takumi visits the guild, where Hans asks if he is interested in an escort mission. He asks how long it would take, and Baraki observes that with his carriage, it will take only 4 days. Takumi tries to pass the escort mission to the Lion Fangs, but they are far too busy with another mission, so he reluctantly agrees to do it himself. On the way, Thomas thanks Takumi for escorting him and mentions that he plans to buy milk for Pape's company, which surprises Takumi quite a lot. But Thomas also notices that they have cheese, and they stop the carriage when Takumi spots monsters. Sophia mentions that it is merely a territorial conflict between goblins and forest wolves. Tsubaki uses a lightning attack to defeat them, and they soon arrive in the city of Kilgus. There, they enjoy a creamy stew, but this makes Takumi miss his former life. He tells Sophia that they need to buy milk and cheese before leaving the city, and she observes that the market stays open even at night. Takumi asks whether there is rice in this world, and Mary observes that it was available at the market, which makes him sad since he missed that opportunity. Sophia asks if he is alright, and he responds with another question, asking her whether she feels nostalgic since she has not returned to her hometown for a very long time. But she tells him that she is happy with her new life because she had been living like a caged bird, but he removed her curse and gave her wings. He realizes that the goddess Nolam also gave him wings, so he decides to name the group Wings of Nolam. After completing the escort mission, Takumi's group returns to Bolton. 2 more nights later, he notices that the mansion is filled with paralyzing poison. He spots 2 masked men who capture the girls, but when they try to attack him, Keed helps him defeat them. He heals everyone using his healing magic, but Maria asks why the poison did not affect him. So he explains that both he and Keed are resistant to poison and paralysis. She asks him what they should do about the people outside, and everyone is surprised to see that she has already captured everyone. Sophia observes that they were trained and tells him to bring Baraki. He arrives very quickly, and after inspecting the scene, he asks Takumi to report the incident to Godwin, since the situation could be serious. Takumi discovers that the attackers are part of the Divine Light Squad, which executes people who defy the teachings of their church. Godwin tells him that the Empire of Sidonia is likely behind the attack, and that it is very likely because of the purification devices Takumi created. Takumi thinks that he should hide in another nation, but Godwin believes he would be much safer in Bolton because everyone there is willing to help him, and it makes much more sense. Baraki tells him that he only needs to worry about his safety during adventures, but Takumi considers taking a break from those adventures. Baraki then remarks that his group is one of the strongest, so he cannot take such a break. Sophia assures him that she will protect him, and Baraki believes that their training will make him even stronger. Takumi then goes to the guild, where he registers the group's new name. Sophia tells him that he needs to be more careful, since there is a large bounty on his head. Hans tells him that, according to rumors, the recent attack against them was connected to that, so he really needs to be careful. Takumi tells Sophia and the others about his security concerns, and they try to assure him that they will stay alert next time. But he observes that besides the guards around their mansion, they will need additional security measures, installing an electric fence, barbed wire, adopting a pit bull, although in this case he could simply adopt a dragon. In the end, he does none of that. He decides to surround the mansion with a magical barrier, which is even better than barbed wire. This will prevent anyone who is not registered from entering it, and Rieva offers to help him as well. Sophia suggests that they find a DPS or a tank, and all the girls agree that it should not be a man. Obviously, it has to be another woman joining the group. Takumi then wonders where they could find such a person, and Sophia observes that some adventurers work alone, but it would not be easy to establish a trustworthy group with. She thinks that he should try Mulan's company, and he agrees, since having a contractual bond would be much safer. But the girls tell him that he can trust them even without a contract. At night, the royal knights guard the mansion while the girls sleep, and Sophia ends up noticing that Takumi is still working. The next morning, Rieva helps Takumi with alchemy, and Sophia offers to help as well. So he tells her to engrave the magic circle onto the metal shield. Keed and Tsubaki play with a toy golem, and Rieva thinks that Takumi should have a golem as well. But he knows that his current mana manipulation skill is not sufficient to control it on its own. That is when he successfully creates his magical barrier, which greatly impresses Sophia. He mentions that if he manages to raise the level of his spell control skill, he will be able to create a golem control core. Meanwhile, in the Empire of Sidonia, the Emperor learns about the failed attack on Takumi. He realizes that they have already been exposed, but Elizabeth suggests that they should postpone negotiations with the kingdom. Instead, they should focus on summoning the heroes. He asks about the progress of the summoning, and a man named Homer tells him that they were unable to analyze the magic circle discovered in the ruins. However, they can still activate the summoning by interpreting the ancient text. Homer mentions that it would take at most 2 to 3 months to gather enough mana for the summoning. At that point, we see Takumi practicing golem control using a magic stone, but without much success. Keed wonders why he wants a golem, since he has her, Tsubaki, and the other girls by his side. But he explains that 3 is good, but 4 is much better. Then Sophia asks whether he can tame a golem, and he likes the idea. Sophia then tells him that an iron golem appears in the old dungeon near Horace, and he is surprised to hear that since he has never been inside a dungeon. He says that they should visit the dungeon, but she says that it seems quite dangerous without a tank. Even so, Takumi takes the group to the ruins because he does not care about what they say. They soon spot a giant golem, about 3 meters tall. Sophia thinks they were lucky to find it, and observes that they should attack the control core in the center, which would kill it, but he mentions that a dead golem would be useless to them. The golem senses their presence, which frightens them, and Sophia thinks they should abandon the mission, since it is too dangerous. But as I said, Takumi does not want to hear it. He does not care about the woman's opinion, so he goes ahead and attacks the creature, and Sophia tells everyone to cover him. However, Takumi stops everyone from attacking, since he feels a very strong connection between them. They think he is incredibly brave, but we find out that he is afraid and is only facing the golem because he could not sense any hostility from it. Takumi realizes that the golem was protecting ruins related to Nalam, and since the goddess blessed him, the golem is not attacking him. He soon manages to tame the golem, which surprises everyone, and he decides to name it Titan, due to its enormous size. The boy is very creative, right? Keed observes that it is trying to say something, and Takumi realizes that it needs a more versatile body. At this point, I already thought the author would find some way to turn this golem into a cute girl, but that does not happen. Takumi decides to use his pocket dimension, but surprisingly the golem transforms into a much smaller version. Keed asks Takumi for help to communicate with it, and he says that he will do his best. Several months after the present time, Kenny notices Yamato and Akira intimidating soldiers and fooling around with girls, but when she confronts them, he tells her to mind her own business, and back with Takumi, he worries about his girl, and mentions that staying with him puts their lives in danger, so he wants to dissolve their contracts. But that makes everyone sad, so Maria tells him that he will have to face her first if he wants to dissolve their contracts. She wonders why he always prioritizes their safety over his own, and then she reminds him that they are the wings of Nalam, and that he cannot fly without his wings. After seeing their reaction, Takumi realizes that his decision to end the contracts was wrong, and all of them assure him that they will stay by his side to protect him. Takumi finally prepares a new body for Titan, and Keed is happy to finally be able to talk to him. He examines its equipment, including a mace, a shield, and several other items. But most importantly, it can transform into a much larger Titan. Nolam watches them from above, and thinks that Takumi is being far too adventurous, and her attendant tells her that they have begun to observe traces of Anati's existence. This surprises her, since Anati should not truly exist. She observes that this is likely due to the years of faith from the Church of Divine Light, and mentions that it will soon turn into an evil spirit, which will lead to a war in the human world. Nolam agrees, but observes that she cannot interfere directly, and that is why she sent Takumi to the other world. In a flashback from 1 year earlier, we see a deserted city near Bolton, where the residents are forced to leave their homes due to the poor governance of the nobles. A girl named Manny is one of them, and we learn that she lost her husband because he could not receive proper treatment. Then we return to the present, where Godwin learns that more than 1,000 citizens were expelled from their village. That is when we see another lord, named Rockforge, who took them in, but can no longer keep sheltering them, so he needs Godwin's help to find a new home for those people. He observes that they need enough space to accommodate everyone, so he only has one area as an option. But it is full of monsters, which would make development very difficult. But clearly, who will be the hero capable of killing all the monsters there? Let us pretend we do not know. Meanwhile, Takumi tells his group that they should try a challenging dungeon. So they head to the second most difficult rank dungeon, called the Beast King's Forest. He is quite surprised to see that there is a sky and a vast forest, despite it being underground. His group deals with all the monsters they encounter with Keed's help, as she detects enemies before they can reach them. Titan handles the attacks of all the stronger monsters, allowing them to quickly clear all the floors and collect the treasures along the way. After 1 day, they finally reach the final floor, which makes them very excited. However, Takumi accidentally steps on a trap, causing a giant ball to roll after them. They jump into a narrow passage to save themselves while continuing forward. Keed ends up sensing a very strange presence. They stop fighting and end up seeing an S-rank Earth Dragon. Mary and Ryeva become frightened, while Takumi mentions that he should have brought Titan in his giant form. He tells Mary and Titan to hold its tail, and everyone attacks the dragon, but they realize it is still alive, and it sends Titan flying into the wall. Sophia informs them of its weak point, and he summons Tsubaki. She attacks from the flank, and Takumi now thinks this is his chance to bring it down, but realizes that Tsubaki could burn him if he gets too close. That is when he enchants his sword with lightning and throws it into the dragon's mouth, killing it instantly. Tsubaki evolves into a dragon horse, and Takumi finds a dragon scale, so he might be able to make something with it. This greatly amuses Sophia, as he is behaving like a true craftsman. After returning from the dungeon, Godwin summons Takumi and asks if he knows about the undeveloped land in the south. He says he heard it was full of monsters, which is why even neighboring nations ignore it. Godwin mentions that Triaria attempted to invade that land, but the invasion failed, which led to the country's decline. He then asks Takumi whether he could build a village on that land, since he knows about the impressive work Takumi did in the village of Board. Sophia reminds Godwin of the danger Takumi may face, but he explains that there is no other option, and that Takumi will have to manage somehow. Takumi asks why they need that village, so Godwin explains that the villagers became refugees because they were betrayed by corrupt nobles. He wants to build a home for those people, but mentions that this is only one of his reasons. Sophia asks what the other reasons are, but Takumi interrupts her before Godwin can answer. Takumi remembers how others helped him when he arrived in this world, so he decides to help as well, which makes Godwin very happy. Takumi refuses the offer of being escorted by knights, and then the Wings of Nolam set out on their mission to build a new city. They soon arrive at the undeveloped land and begin constructing walls using earth magic. Continuing to use his magic to develop the area, they soon manage to complete a large part of the structure. Takumi sends Sophia to request the transfer of the refugees, which surprises Godwin, since the group had started the work only 10 days earlier. The refugees receive the order to move to the southern border, but they believe the region is still full of monsters, so they are very afraid. They think the authorities are merely trying to get rid of them, but they are surprised to see that there is already a wall surrounding the village. Takumi welcomes them warmly, saying that he built that wall to protect them from monsters. He explains that he built houses for both the refugees and the nobles who will govern them, and that there is also a barracks for the knights. Dorn asks whether he used magic, and he admits that he did, but explains that the village is still not completely finished. The villagers are very happy with their new home, but Sophia notices that Manny seems depressed. That is when she asks Manny why she is feeling lonely, and she discovers that Manny's husband passed away in her former village. Sophia wonders whether she would like to work with Takumi and become his new wife. That is when she meets Takumi, who wants to hire her as his assistant and, possibly, as his future wife. I have no doubt about that. But she ends up rejecting the offer because she does not trust men very much, especially nobles. Maria tries to persuade her, but Takumi gives her more time to think. She believes she cannot stay there since she refused to work for him, so she decides to leave the village. She enters the forest, but immediately regrets that decision since she hears a frightening roar. Keed tells Takumi about the monster's arrival, and everyone thinks he will have to fight. But then they are shocked to see that the enemy is actually the Titan. Takumi orders Dorn to raise the bridges to protect the villagers, but Manny ends up getting trapped outside, and everyone starts looking for her, and they discover that she was last seen leaving. That is when Takumi decides to rescue her. Manny realizes that she was surrounded by wolves and believes she is doomed, but Takumi suddenly arrives to save her. He quickly deals with the wolves, and she warns him that more monsters are approaching, but he assures her that it will not be a problem. That is when his group joins him, and Sophie informs them that they will handle the monsters. Manny notices a small wound on his arm and bandages it. She thanks him for saving her, and he says that he will not let anyone get hurt in that village. At that moment, she realizes that he has nothing to do with the other corrupt nobles, so she asks if she can become his maid. He happily accepts her joining the group, and everyone welcomes her. Dorn meets Godwin and tells him about the development of Takumi's new city, which impresses him greatly. But this news also reaches the Empire, and there they feel threatened, because they know that the knights guarding the fortress are from Bolton. They realize that Takumi is the one behind the construction of the fort, and Elizabeth believes that they cannot allow this to happen as if it were normal. They then initiate a summoning ritual, which causes a mana disturbance across the entire continent. That is when Takumi realizes that the other heroes have arrived. 3 months later, we see Nolanha observing how events are unfolding, and she is quite impressed that the heroes of Sidonia are already ranked A. Elizabeth mentions that the time has come to introduce them to the other nation. Akira, Yu, and Mato believe they are destined to save the world, and because of that, they become very excited to show themselves off. Akane is not very interested in that, since she knows Elizabeth's dirty secrets. But even so, she goes along with it, saying that she wants everyone to recognize. We learn that the village is now known as Edgefort, and that the villagers learned from Bolton's craftsmen, so now they know how to manufacture weapons. Takumi realizes that the village is beginning to prosper, and he is very happy that everyone is enjoying life. Keed shows Sophia a forest lizard, and Sophia notices that she has never seen one of that kind before. She realizes that the monsters in the region are becoming increasingly stronger. She then tells this to the others, and the group thinks they need to exterminate the monsters. But she explains that they are not yet a direct threat to Edgefort, so there is no need to hunt them down, at least not for now. Sophia believes that the monsters from nearby habitats are approaching the village. Because of the mana they sensed 3 months earlier. Soon after, Dorn informs Takumi that Barak has a mission for him. That is when he reveals that everyone in Bolton has been talking about the heroes of Sidonia. Takumi asks whether they appeared 3 months ago, and Dorn becomes indignant, wanting to know how he knew that. And that is when everyone realizes that it was those heroes who caused the mana disturbance. That night, Takumi and his friends talk about the hero, and Maria believes that Nolan sent them to guide Sidonia onto the right path. But Takumi knows that the Empire used forbidden magic to summon the heroes, and he only hopes that they are decent people who can correct Sidonia's misguided policies. That is when we see our heroes preparing to leave the Empire, but there is tension in the air. The others are looking at Lulu, Akane's slave, with hostility, believing that she does not deserve to be in the same carriage as them. But Akane explains that Lulu is her assistant and orders her to enter the carriage with everyone else. At the Adventurers Guild, Hans tells Takumi that the heroes have dark hair and black eyes, which makes them wonder whether they are also from Japan. Hans informs him that Pape wants to hire Takumi to escort the heroes to the capital, and he decides to accept this mission. Takumi returns home, but Manny asks if she can come along, since she doesn't want to stay alone at the mansion. He explains that escort missions are dangerous, but the girls manage to convince him, and Manny then reveals that she also knows how to use earth magic. With that, since everyone in this story is a warrior, he ends up agreeing to bring her along. After that, we cut to the heroes. Akira mentions that there are elves in the royal capital and says he wants to buy a few. Yamato observes that they've already passed level 30 and believes it's only a matter of time before they become the strongest in the world. But Akane feels like she needs to do something to fix things, since she believes this expedition is her only chance to truly change something. Back to Takumi, the receptionist informs him that they've completed their mission. So now he and Sophie are ranked out. But suddenly the heroes appear and tell everyone to get out of the way. An adventurer asks if they are rookies, but Akira punches him in the face and says that they should show respect to them since they are heroes. Akira wants to buy some girls, but Takumi refuses to sell them and tells the heroes to leave. Then Akira and Yamato get upset and try to attack Takumi, but he breaks Akira's sword and easily knocks Yamato down. And that's that, showing these guys that life isn't easy. Akira can't believe that his holy sword was destroyed, but Takumi knows it's just a regular sword made of magic iron. Akira says things won't end well for Takumi, but he reminds them that they are surrounded by other adventurers, so the heroes decide to leave. Akane apologizes for their behavior and asks Takumi's name, so he introduces himself. She recognizes their names since her revelation skill told her to look for him, but he stops her from speaking and tells her about his plan to stay at the Lakeside Hotel. We see Takumi's group at the hotel, and while he tells the others he knows the heroes, Sophie mentions that they are terrible people, but Akane doesn't seem to be like them at all. Takumi notes that he told her about the plan to stay there, but realizes he was careless and starts to worry about her safety. Soon we see Akane fleeing with Lulu while the Sidonian guards order her to come back, but Sophie arrives and knocks them all out. Then she tells Akane to go to the hotel, where she finds Takumi's group, and he tells her that he's also from her world, explaining that he is there because of the heroes. The girls are surprised by this, so he decides to tell them everything, but asks them to keep it a secret. They realize that Takumi is an emissary of Nalam, and Akane starts to think that Sidonia is the true villain, because they used forbidden magic to summon the heroes. Takumi believes they are planning to go to war against the nations, and that they are using the heroes to incite the masses. He asks Akane about Akira and Yamato, and she reveals that they changed after they were summoned. She comments that she never fully trusted Sidonia, which is why she purified the food they gave her. But Akira and Yamato can't use purification magic, since they only focused on sword training. And see, the mage class really makes a difference, which is why I'm a mage in Other Ring. I don't care. Takumi thinks Sidonia put drugs in their food to control their mind, but suddenly, Akane begs him to save her, since she doesn't want to return to the Empire. Takumi mentions that they will chase her, and at that moment, he looks at Lulu's collar. Akane says she hates that collar, because it's proof that Lulu is a slave. Takumi then removes the collar with his magic, but Lulu is worried that Akane will abandon her. She says she has nowhere to go, but Akane explains that she would never leave Lulu, telling her they will stay together as friends forever. He mentions they will go to his mansion in Bolton, and Akane says she doesn't want to cause problems for him, but Takumi explains that he wants to help her, since they are from the same world. And now it's a checklist for more for the harem. At this point, we cut to Akira and Yamato, who are telling a priest that Akane fled with Lulu. They comment that they always found her a bit suspicious, and the priest thinks it's better for them to return to Sidonia and rethink their plans. Back to Takumi's group, who just arrived at his mansion. Maria prepares a cream stew for Akane and Lulu. The two try it, but Akane starts crying, and Maria thinks she messed up the food. but Ekane says that, actually, it's amazing, and Takumi realizes that she hasn't been able to relax since she was summoned, since she never trusted Sidonia. That moment, there was the first time she managed to feel the taste of food from her own world. And right after that we cut to a knight who is standing guard in the village. He notices that something is moving in the forest, and is very surprised to see a horde of monsters, and tells everyone to send a message to Bolton. At that moment, Takumi informs the girls that he is going to terminate the contracts with them. They become very upset, but he explains that they will continue together as a family. He says that he has been with them for a long time, that they have already formed a very strong bond, so there is no longer any need for the contract. He asks them to continue supporting him as partner, and removes the contract, saying that he is very happy to have them by his side. After that, he starts working on 2 holy swords, but suddenly receives a notice from the guild, calling high-ranking adventurers to gather, since there is an emergency at Edgefort. Takumi meets the members of the Lion's Fang, and immediately starts wondering what exactly is going on. Barak reveals that there is a horde of monsters attacking Edgefort, and they learn that other groups are busy with missions. Always like this, right? So only they manage to arrive there in time. That is when Hans says that another group will join them, the group of Rose and Scarlet. Takumi ends up meeting the leader, Merylda, who comments that she has heard many rumors about the wings of Nolan. The members of the Lion's Fangs recognize her, and Barak tells everyone that they need to clear a path for Dorn, since he will lead a squad of knights. Takumi decides to leave Akane and Lulu behind, and orders Titan to protect the 2 of them, while he goes to complete the mission with his friends. He hands Sophia the holy sword, Matarazzo, saying that he forged it using the materials they found in the dungeon. He also ends up showing another sword, called Tsukayomi, but it is not the infinite one, and he explains that Matarazzo deals physical damage, while Tsukayomi deals mental damage. Basically, Hans thinks the other one is Madara. This is sensational. Soon, they arrive at Edgefort, but they realize that the city is surrounded by monsters, so they spring into action and start killing monsters along the way. The guards spot Takumi and lower the bridge for him. The group takes care of the monsters that manage to get past the walls, and the villagers are very happy to see him. Takumi orders Rieva and Manny to take care of the wounded. He joins the other adventurers, but they notice that the monsters are retreating and find this very strange, since their movements seem to be very coordinated. Takumi believes that the monster shivelator, but the other adventurers think this is practically impossible. However, he explains that the mana disturbance may have caused the monsters to evolve. Meanwhile, in Sidonia, everyone learns about what happened, and hopes that the monsters will destroy Barkula. The Emperor thinks they should take advantage of the situation, and prepare to attack Barkula, but Elizabeth suggests attacking another kingdom. We discover that this other kingdom is an ally of Barkula, and Elizabeth believes they should use the heroes to attack this allied kingdom. The Emperor agrees that they should take advantage of the situation, and prepares to attack that kingdom, since in the future he will not be able to receive help from Barkula. Returning to Edgefort, while Rieva gives food to Sophia, she reveals that she is very worried about Takumi, since he is giving all of his potions to the wounded villager, and Sophia decides to talk to him and says that the monsters will attack again, so she suggests that he keep some potions for himself. He replies that he can avoid getting injured, so he will not need the potions. The guy is impressive. She realizes that he is altruistic and therefore becomes determined to protect him, no matter what happens. That is when they see another horde of monsters approaching, and the adventurers decide to fight them outside the gate. They realize that they are at a great numerical disadvantage, but the mages annihilate the monsters with a spell. The warriors end up beating them down, and they decide to split up, because the monsters are everywhere. Sophia pushes them back with her tornado spell, but Takumi says that she is advancing too fast and asks her to slow down. Suddenly, the monsters retreat, and everyone notices that a giant creature is devouring the monster. A 2-headed dragon appears and attacks Sophia, and Takumi realizes that it is the one leading the horde of monsters. The dragon tries to crush Sophia, but Takumi saves her, and comments that they should have brought Titan with them. The dragon begins attacking everyone, but Sophia uses her magic to draw the creature's attention. She even tries to dodge the attacks, but fails, and ends up being burned by the dragon's flame. The dragon prepares to finish her off, but the other girls appear to help. Sophia hands her sword to Takumi, who uses it to attack the dragon with wind blades. He consumes all of his mana to strengthen Tsukayomi and cuts the dragon in half with a single strike. There is no way around it. The Madara sword is the strongest. After that, Takumi heals Sophia and asks why she was so reckless. She reveals that she only wanted to protect him, but he says that she could have died, and she says that her life is worth nothing, but he replies that she cannot throw that life away. Other adventurers reveal that the monsters have been exterminated, but Takumi ends up passing out. Later, he wakes up and everyone is happy to see that he is fine, while Merylda tells Sophia that Takumi is an incredible man. Soon after, we see Akurio and Mato massacring the villagers of Samando. They think they are doing well without Kani and want more action, so they end up slaughtering the entire village. That night, Takumi and his friends return home and enjoy a meal together. But they notice that Sophia is acting in a very strange way. The girls think it is because of Takumi, so he decides to talk to her and apologizes for having yelled at. She says that she is willing to sacrifice her own life to protect him. But he says that he wants to spend his entire life with her and does not want her to die. She promises to stay by his side, but Akane interrupts them, saying that the food is ready. A few days later, we learn that Lord Godwin allowed Takumi to let Kani and Lulu stay at his mansion. But he mentions that the heroes are massacring villagers in another kingdom. And Akane blames herself because she could have prevented the massacre if she had been with them. She is determined to stop them the next time she meets them. And soon after that, Takumi talks with Anolim and asks why she sent him a year earlier than the others. He thinks that she has a plan, but she says that his fate is in his own hands. And he mentions that he will protect everyone, that this is important to him, no matter what happened. He comments that he really enjoys his life as an alchemist, being able to create whatever he wants and offer sweets to her as offering. She knows that he has a very difficult path ahead, because he is the only one who can save the world. But she believes that he can do it, and she knows, we all know, that eventually he will become the greatest alchemist of all time. And that is it, everyone. The video ends here. Do not forget to like and subscribe to the channel. Leave a comment down below. Alchemy is just too good, so we know that you watched until the end. And thank you very much for everything. We are together. Thanks, take care, and see you in the next video.